Russia and Ukraine each claiming that the other side attacked some energy infrastructure overnight, just hours after President Trump and Russian President Putin agreed to a 30-day pause on energy and infrastructure attacks in Ukraine. Joining us now on what comes next is Max Bergmann, director of the Europe, Russia, and Eurasia program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Can you summarize, and a lot of people are trying to, Max, summarize the phone call yesterday in your view?
Well, I think the phone call was about beginning a process, effectively, and Trump wants a ceasefire. And what's very clear is Putin doesn't want a ceasefire that will leave Ukraine as strong as it was to begin that ceasefire. So in order for there to be a ceasefire, Russia has laid out various demands that basically say that Ukraine stops its military mobilization and the U.S. and others stop arming Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russia would get stronger because Russia is going to be armed by North Korea, continuing shipments from China and Iran, and it would maintain its military modernization and mobilization. So I think where we are is a really long way from any lasting and durable ceasefire or peace agreement. And I think the strikes last night, I think after the agreement to stop strikes on infrastructure, demonstrate that Russia is not very interested in a lasting agreement, and Putin has not really shifted from his maximalist goals of ending Ukrainian democracy. So I think we're still a long way from any sort of lasting peace agreement.
So will President Trump's desire to fulfill a promise to end this war, will that not allow him to be tough on Putin to the extent that the only way Vladimir Putin does anything is if he's forced to? Could sanctions or tougher economic moves or threats of not re-engaging with Moscow in the future, with the West, would any of those have an effect on forcing Putin to be, I don't know, less dogmatic about what he wants? He's going to try and get everything he wants unless he's forced not to, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I don't think there's much on the economic side that would entice him. I mean, of course, when he invaded Ukraine in 2022, he understood there were going to be massive economic sanctions. So the economic side of this has very little impact on him. I think we need to remember he has been there for 25 years. He is becoming an older man thinking about his place in history. And when you start doing that, if Russia were to settle for essentially a ceasefire in the existence of a democratic Ukraine, Putin, in a historical sense, has lost the war. So for him, he's going to keep going. I mean, we know about this, being in long wars and quagmires, and the instinct is not to get out. The instinct is to try to win the war. And he sees an opportunity to sideline the United States. And I think the challenge for President Trump is he has two conflicting goals. One is to end the war, and the other is to essentially pull back and stop supporting Ukraine. And I think, to me, the one thing we can do is we could demonstrate to Russia that they can't win this war militarily, which would mean more U.S. aid to Ukraine. And that's not something that President Trump wants to do. So I think we're sort of stuck with the United States trying to negotiate something where we have lost a degree of leverage because we have sort of shifted from being a backer and supporter of Ukraine to being more of a neutral actor in this war.
So how does it proceed from here, do you think? I don't think Ukraine is going to agree to any terms that we're talking about here that Putin wants, even if Trump is urging them to do so, and that's going to drive another wedge.
Putin didn't agree to the terms that President Trump had struck with Ukraine either, though. I mean, this is...
I think that Putin will drive another wedge. You saw what happened the first time at the White House. Be easy to get that to happen again.
Yeah, I mean, Marco Rubio, I think, and Tim Walz did a good job negotiating a foundational agreement with the Ukrainians about what a ceasefire could look like. The ball was then put in Putin's court, and this is what the Russians do. they, you know, find ways to sort of dice and splice and make negotiations sort of go on endlessly. And I think the ultimate objective of Russia is to play out these negotiations to look like a reasonable party that is participating in them, all the while undermining them and then laying the blame at Ukraine's feet. And I think they can effectively do that. But I think what they want is for U.S. military deliveries to stop, for Ukraine to get militarily weaker, and to continue the war, and with the hopes that in 2026 they can, you know, perhaps have broken down the Ukrainian military so much that they can break through. So I think this war is going to continue.